no escape now, no one will survive.
Ladies and gentlemen, how y'all doing on this Wednesday evening? This is the Club of the Man 1993, and I am here live to give you my live review of this week's episode of Monday Night Raw from the August 10th, 2020 edition of Raw. It took place once again at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. I can't believe it. I literally blanked out for a second. It's been one of those weeks, guys. One of those weeks. They happen. It's life. Which is why I was not in the mood yesterday to do a review. I was too tired after Raw on Monday. And quite frankly, I'm still kind of in a mood today. But detaching myself from things that are just bugging me right now, and I am coming up here to talk wrestling with you all. Talk live. And to talk about this week's episode of Raw. So, overall, I'll say this episode of Raw actually was decently watchable. I actually thought for the most part it was worthwhile. Was it amazing? No. I kind of felt it was... Again, I definitely gave this maybe a slight bit higher of a grade than I should have. But there was some good stuff on the show. Everything else interested me. A couple things that I would say really just like no, especially not. Especially that stuff with the freaking ninjas. And then even stuff with Retribution didn't really amaze me that much this week. But the opening segment, the closing segment, a couple things here and there, not a bad episode of Raw. I actually didn't feel like this episode was a waste of time. And it's a talk. See, here's the thing. Even if Raw was bad, and it's a show like this where it's talkable, I enjoy doing those reviews. Because I'm not sitting here just like, yeah, this happened, whatever. Yeah, this happened, whatever. It's stuff that happened that I can actually talk about. Plus, also, when I'm in the right state of mind, and not sitting here just like, oh, I want to go to bed, and I'm talking about this show, the match happened, yeah, whatever. Then, I don't enjoy doing those. But a review like this, I'm going to enjoy. I must also say, how on earth did I not watch SmackDown on Friday? I did a review that I ranted about the show for 45 minutes that I didn't even talk about, and I'm getting a lot of views on that review. So, awesome! I actually give myself a thumbs up for that, because I did not expect to, I usually don't get that many views on my reviews, but hey, I'm getting them. Wish I would get more of my match cards, but it is what it is. So, let's roll into the show, because I do want to watch Dynamite today, and hopefully do my Dynamite review, because I definitely get NXT review tomorrow, because Friday I'm not going to be, Friday I'm going out with friends, and I'm not going to be watching SmackDown live. Even if I was home, I still probably wouldn't watch it live. Who knows, but yeah. What's up, Tyler, in the live chat? Question, what if the virus never happened? I'm pretty sure it'd be a much better year. Drew McIntyre would be getting the reactions he was meant to. Although, of course, Roman Reigns would have beaten Goldberg at WrestleMania. I still, to this day, why is random scammers trying to message me on Instagram? I still believe, though, that, of course, we would have had Roman Reigns defeating Goldberg. And I still think to this day, John Cena and Bray Wyatt's match should have had the title on the line. They should have never dropped the title from Bray Wyatt. A bunch of other things I would rant about. But say that for another video. Again, I'm trying, guys, to get another top 10 together. Again, it's just, I'm trying to, dress some things up. Again, give it graphics and whatnot. But like I said, I just don't have the time to consistently do them. So, I'll try at some point, guys, but I don't know when. But I'm pushing for it. But, anyways, let's talk about Raw. So, we opened up, first off, we had a recent death. James Kamala Harris passed away at the age of 70 this past weekend. So we had that graphic to show in his memory. We then open up with a contract signing for the match between Seth Rollins and Dominic Mysterio at SummerSlam. Samoa Joe is presiding over that contract signing, and they mentioned he's still not medically cleared to compete. Samoa Joe originally got suspended for 30 days for violating the wellness policy, but then he hasn't been in the ring since. Apparently he's been dealing with other nagging injuries, because Joe's apparently super injury prone, unfortunately. which is a shame because the promo he cut this week and last week, again, just remind me again of how good he's on the microphone, how much I miss hearing his promos, especially as a heel. I mean, as a babyface, it's fresh, but I really think he's hitting his high notes as a heel, personally. Anyway, so he opens up, and he says, well, first off, he introduces both Seth and Dominic, which, by the way, I will say, Dominic, not bad theme music for your first theme music, I'll say. So Seth says Dominic looks more like a scared little boy than a man, and Joe, more of a scared little boy than a man. Joe then takes Dominic's kendo stick and says, "I'm keeping that for safekeeping." Rollins accuses him of making a mockery of proceedings, and then Joe says he should be seeing Seth freaking Rollins, probably the greatest superstar of his generation, instead of a man who got all caught up in his feelings after the W Universe booed him a few times, which again is true, because, well, once again, Seth made us boo him again because of how he just cracked under the pressure of trying to make what he was had to work with turn to gold. Flat out, calling out the fans, talking trash to Will Ospreay. Again, he brought that on himself. But WWE rolling with it and doing what they've done with him has been excellent. Joe rakes him over the coals for taking his issues out on a man who's barely trained to be a professional wrestler. But then Seth defends himself, saying he's done everything he's had to, and Joe might just find himself to be next. He claims he hasn't had a choice in any of this and asks, when is it going to be enough for us? But then Dominic says, you're right, it's never going to be enough. You can keep making excuses for the all ungodly things you do, but you change the lives of good men for the worse, and uses the greater as an excuse. But the only thing he fights for is himself. Seth's like, I'm here on the cusp of fulfilling his dream and becoming a WWE superstar, but he doesn't seem to appreciate that it's all because of him. Dominic says, you're right, this was a dream, but now his dream is to just kick his ass at SummerSlam. Seth's like, you can't last 10 minutes against me in a proper wrestling match, but I'll do you a little favor. You seem very handy with that kendo stick. So how about you bring that with him? Anything in the toolbox. As a matter of fact, he wants to have no excuse when Rollins ends his career before it even begins. So I guess this is like no holds barred, no DQ. I don't know what exactly they're calling it, but apparently they're going to allow Dominic to use weapons. Kind of is worthwhile. This is kind of like a grudge match, and Dominic getting revenge for what Seth did to his father. Of course, signed the contracts. Seth basically is like, it's official, this is the newest WWE superstar, and then he goes, now hang back and watch what you do to Humberto Carrillo. I'm sorry, Humberto! The match happened, and Rollins just pretty much kicked his ass. Not much really happened in the match. Again, compared to the first match that Carrillo had when he first came to Raw last year was actually against Seth, when Seth was Universal Champion. It was a decent match, I thought. This felt like a squash. Like where are we going? Like, I still think... I'll get to those thoughts. Let me talk about what happened after the match, and I'll tie in my thoughts about this whole stuff with Dominic and Seth. But after the match, after Seth wins... Buddy Murphy blindsides Dominic and just starts to beat him up. But then Seth takes out Humberto, but then Dominic recovers and brawls with them. Rollins then hits, though, the curb stomp on Dominic. And he goes get a kendo stick. And he starts just whacking Dominic with that kendo stick. And then he orders Buddy Murphy to rip off Dominic's shirt and to just start whooping him in just the bare chest and the back. Kendo stick again and again and again. They then tied him up to the ropes, so he starts taking it easy at first, just slowly smacking him, and then he's just like into the camera and going like, Hi, Dad. Hi, Dad. Just like basically, just like telling, like, yeah, that's right, Ray. I'm here to beat up your little boy, and yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nobody else out here to help you. Aleister Black got taken out by Murphy. Carrillo just got taken out. He's like, there's nothing you can do. Just basically emphasizing that you're right. Dominic is pretty much hopeless in this situation. He's basically going to get his ass handed to him. So then Murphy joins in, and they literally started just whooping Dominic back and forth like they were hitting a freaking pinata. It was, of course, much more, of course, if Robbie, if you're watching this live stream, much more entertaining than the James Ellsworth pinata. Well, sad, but more effective than the James Ellsworth pinata whenever Asuka was kicking the crap out of Ellsworth when he hung from the top of that shark cage. Oh dear Lord, still my worst match of the year in 2018. Carmella and Asuka at Extreme Rules 2018 with that shark cage match. Oh God, goodness, let's not go there. So they continue just to whoop the crap out of Dominic until he finally, just gets laid out, and then they let him go off the ropes. And Seth asks if he wants to be a man. He's ready to hit the stomp again, but then Dominic's back gives out, and he slumps down, and he's pretty much destroyed. Holy smokes. This was painful, but effectively painful to watch. This definitely was done very well. To me, this felt like watching the segment back in 2014 when Triple H pretty much set up Daniel Bryan to be assaulted by him and Stephanie McMahon while handcuffed. Which, of course, as a Daniel Bryan fan, I was pissed, but Triple H and Stephanie pulled off the excellent role there. This, of course, is the same thing, because we all knew that who else was going to go out there to save Dominic? Nobody. And Dominic sold this like a pro. You should have, again, if you saw the photo, you should have seen the marks, the welts, and everything. Rollins whooped the shit out of him with that kendo stick, and even Murphy did too. And it was brutal to watch, but it really sets up the stage well for the story for the match at SummerSlam between Rollins and Dominic. Now, with that being said, though, I have mentioned recently, of course, I even did not include this match in my card predictions for SummerSlam. The more I'm seeing these segments, the more interested I am getting in this match with Dominic and Seth. And it's not that I don't want to see Dominic have a match. I'm still feeling like maybe him and Seth is just a little too high. It's setting it a little bit too high for Dominic. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think in the ring, he's great. I mean, for crying out loud, the first, bumps we saw him taking was against Brock Lesnar. Whenever Brock Lesnar beat down Dominic, whenever they were building for that match with Ray and Brock at Survivor Series last year, and when Dominic even got involved in the No Holds Barred match at Survivor Series, Dominic looked great. He hung with Brock Lesnar, basically. He literally looked legit in there. In-ring ability, not questioning it. Microphone skills? Yeah, can improve. I thought this promo, though, was much better than it was from last week. It's just, I still feel like his first actual match with Seth Rollins, I feel, is setting the bar a little bit too high, I feel. I don't know. There's some people that I feel like, when Finn Balor came to the main roster, definitely a rocket ship push. Whenever Aleister Black came to the main roster, I would have loved to see him get a rocket ship push. Didn't happen, though. A few others, though. Dominic, I feel like the story fits more having him come in a little bit slower. Not so full speed ahead with him, I feel like, as far as, facing off against Seth. Now, what may have helped is if they would have done that tornado tag match I suggested on my Extreme Rules card predictions. Because when they had them stomp Carrillo's head out, I thought that was a pretty much, setup for Dominic to be involved in a 6-man tornado tag match. Well, it also got ruined because Austin Theory's been suspended, so that kind of took him out of the equation. So it's been a little bit of bad luck with Seth Rollins and his disciples, whatever you want to call them. But I think that may have been a better way for Dominic to get introduced in the ring with an actual match. I mean, I still think this could be a good match. Don't get me wrong. I'm a little more excited about it after this segment. But again, I just feel like maybe Dominic taking on Seth immediately as his first match, maybe a touch too soon. But we'll see. In some ways, this will work. Dominic looks great in the ring. Again, his promo skills, yes, need to improve, but he's getting there. Slowly but surely, I think he's getting there. I think his promo was much better this week than it was last week. But his in-ring ability is great. He can sell like a champ. He made it very believable that he was literally getting the crap whooped out of him. It looked painful. It was painful to watch. It was painful just see a young 23-year-old kid get the crap beat out of him. And yeah, pretty much that. So that's that. That's a good way to start. And then we get backstage. We get Andrade, Garza, and Vega. Well, first we get a video package about Retribution last week and what they did. Setting that generator thing on fire, and of course what they did on SmackDown. We're supposed to see it a few times tonight. We'll get to that when we get to it. We see the trio of Almas, Garza, and Vega backstage. Zelina denying any responsibilities in poisoning Montez Ford, but claims that her boys will in fact take the tag titles from the Street Profits. So Montez Ford is still not cleared. So we had a match with Andrade Cien Almas, Angelo Dawkins. Match was what it was. Dawkins wins, though, by hitting the cash out on him. As Bianca Belair, of course, came out and attacked Zelina Vega, setting up for the match with Bianca Belair and Zelina Vega. And I thought this was a really good match. Of course, I keep mentioning how they've definitely really kind of worn out the welcome, I still feel, with Almas and Garza. I still think because they went back and forth with them so many times, it just got super messy. And of course, they're fighting for the tag titles. Yeah, they haven't been consistently winning. But this match, of course, did remind me that how talented Zelina Vega is. She is somebody that putting on matches like this and hopefully getting some wins down the line, I honestly would still like to see her be pushed to be women's champion someday. That might be setting it too high, but I really think she can pull it off. I think she's that talented. The only gripe I had about this match, well, there's two things. Well, in fact, first off, again, this was a really good match. Bianca looked great in the match. I thought this is, so far, definitely her best match on the main roster. That's saying a lot because she hasn't had too many matches on the main roster, but I thought she looked excellent in this match. Two gripes I have about this match. One, Zelina constantly saying, I didn't do it! It got a little annoying and a little bit scripted. Come on, we got it the first time. If you said it one time, that's fine, but if you're saying it the entire time, it's did Vince really tell you to say it the whole match? That got a little annoying. But two, Bianca did this with, of course, with how personal this match is, because Bianca is pretty sure that Zelina Vega is obvious. Who else would have poisoned Montez Ford? Obviously, Bianca firmly believes that Zelina Vega and her boys were the ones who poisoned Montez Ford. And with how much she basically wanted just to beat the ever-living crap out of Zelina Vega, where is the hair whip? Is Vince not allowing Bianca to use her hair as a weapon? I hope to God that's not true. Because that's one, distinct difference with Bianca Belair, is her hair whip. And it's effective. And I think definitely to use it on Zelina Vega in a match of the story like this would have made that match even more better than it was. Because I thought this was a really good match. Eventually, after some good back and forth action, though, Bianca eventually wins with the KOD. And afterwards, she's interviewed, basically, saying, she believes that Zelina did it. And Dawkins saying that they'll be ready to want the smoke at SummerSlam. So, okay. Then we have the Hurt Business and a investigation edition of the VIP Lounge. MVP says tonight's episode is different because he's not in the mood to pop bottles, but rather serve people in the mouth. He puts over his own bona fides and asks how he's supposed to win the championships in these unsafe working conditions. Apollo never beat him. The lights beat him. Out came Apollo Crews, which, again, I will put over the fact that, again, I am still a huge fan of Apollo's new theme music. I love it. I think it's very good. I actually downloaded it to my phone. But Apollo comes out and says MVP is always making excuses for his losses, that he must be hurting to see this title that he paid for on his shoulder. MVP says he's a serial bad decision maker, and coming out here with the three of them is another bad decision. But Apollo's like, I'm allowed to make bad decisions because I'm a bad man. MVP wants to tell him he doesn't care about his family and his kids, but Crews says he doesn't care about Shelton or Lashley. And at SummerSlam, the only lights he's going to put out is MVP's. And then Lashley and Benjamin go to attack, but Apollo slides in the ring, avoids them, and then he pops MVP one with, I think, an enziguri, and he then picks up the couch and throws it out of the ring at them to kind of, scare them off and shake them up. And then we set up a match with Crews and Shelton Benjamin. Match was what it was. But off of the distraction from MVP, Shelton Benjamin pins him with a schoolboy roll-up. After the match, though, Lashley goes for the full Nelson. But MVP says, no, wait. I need Apollo healthy so I can beat him at SummerSlam. Lashley, let's go. And MVP says, I'm just looking out. But then Apollo's like, I'm not taking this. Hits an enziguri, and he runs for it. So, after seeing this segment more, something really has to happen at SummerSlam, I still think, with this storyline. And that's why, again, I'm not sure maybe, it got held up because of Apollo's absence due to him being sick. But I think something has to happen at SummerSlam to really knuckle down on this Apollo Crews slow heel turn. Because I don't know what else Crews can do after he gets past MVP, especially as a babyface. What I would do, I don't know, here's the thing, I predicted in my card predictions, if MVP wins, Apollo Crews must join the Hurt Business. Kind of like when John Cena feuded with Wade Barrett at Hell in a Cell in 2010. If Cena lost, he had to join the Nexus. But if he won, Nexus was done. But the thing though is, I don't want to see Apollo drop the U.S. title. And yes, Apollo Crews is still a slow work in progress. I mean, at least they start with the mid-card title and not the world title. I think if booked right, Apollo Crews can be a world champion. That's me saying a lot. But obviously, he still needs some work on some things. His promo skills have gotten better, much better than when he was spelling out Crews when he first came to the main roster and was feuding with The Miz for the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam in 2016. But I don't know. Again, I'd say either some type of stipulation, or even MVP pushes Apollo to the limit where he has to kind of cheat to win, or does something where basically he surrenders to the Hurt Business. I'm not sure. Or something I don't know. It's just they gotta do something. This can't be Apollo just being MVP and done. No, Apollo needs the Hurt Business. Apollo needs the Hurt Business to keep the durability of of the momentum he's got right now. Because I think if he just beats MVP and moves on from the Hurt Business, I think he's going to lose that momentum. I think they're going to take the title off of him. They're going to sour him. Because again, if this was Paul Heyman writing this, I'd have more faith. But we have Bruce Pritchard, Mr. Whatever you say, boss, type attitude to Vince McMahon. I just think that they need to pull a trigger on something sooner rather than later, I think, with this. So, yeah, that's my opinion on that. Apollo Crews loses to Shelton Benjamin, and basically he takes out that MVP. We had this really lame segment where Retribution are basically in front of one of the doors with a cinder block. And then there's a security guard there. It's like, no, don't do that, no. Like a little innocent little kid basically doesn't want to cause trouble. No. They take that cinder block, throw it through a door, kind of just like if I'm just sitting here and I just toss someone on my bed. It looked weak, and then the security guard should have been like, "Hey, if you do this, I'm gonna report you." Pretty much. No, the security guard was afraid of them. He looked like he had like no business at all being a security guard. So that was dumb. Plus, also, they still look like Akira Tozawa's freaking ninjas. So if there's supposed to be other talents, make them look different than freaking jobbers who don't even have names, and I still don't get why they're still there. Get to those shortly. Speaking of, well, a positive then turned to a negative. So back from commercial, we get an interview backstage with the returning Mickie James. Mickie James is back, and I guess she's on Raw because she was drafted to SmackDown. In the 2019 Superstar Shakeup before the whole redraft, or you want to call it, happened last October. So Mickie James is back. She's on Raw. She came across as a babyface. I'll do a turn alert. So it seems she's back as a babyface. And she's looking great. I'll say Mickie James always looks great. Oh, Mickie, you're so fine. You're so fine. Never mind. I'm not going to start that. Anyways, she's 40 years old. Too old for me. She's excited to be back to lead the locker room, but she's got gold on her mind, which she should. Again, I still think before this run ends, Mickie James deserves a run with the title. Any women's title, for sure. I think she definitely deserves it. It's been long overdue. They brought her back. They did nothing. Well, they started off good with her and Alexa, but then they pulled the plug on that too quickly. Did nothing with her. Didn't really put her and Alexa back together. It was just strange. But anyway, so she's back. But then here comes, we haven't seen them for like a month, Lana and Natalya. Forgot the fact that they're now a duo. So Lana asks, "Oh, how are you going to leave the locker room without a TikTok?" Natty puts herself over as the best of all time. Wait a minute, that spells boat. And Mickie is like, "This is why I expect this from Lana, but not from Natty. You got a legacy of your own to worry about." But the thing about boats, you see, is they sink. And Lana and Natty like, "Oh, rude." So it's like, what? Now you're gonna have Natty and... First off, Lana got ruined with that whole run with her and Lashley. That completely just ruined Lana. Seeing Natty cut these promos just completely made me remember how much I just... Again, I like Natty. I've always think Natty is one of the most respected women's wrestlers that definitely should have been booked a lot better. But as a heel, I'm sorry, her promos are atrocious. I still think she's much better as a babyface. So when I saw that, I'm just like, yeah, already souring on Natty as a heel. So yeah, the boat. So what's next? She's gonna be wearing her tights saying boat on her rear end, just like Jericho wears goat. Well, at least with Jericho, it worked. Natty, boat, it just sounds ridiculous. Super scripted. And I wonder who came up with that. That's right, I know you did, Vince. So anyway, so we got that. And then we have Ivar backstage chatting with some lady when basically, Cedric Alexander and Ricochet roll up and say they have a match next. Four of them are teaming up, and the girl's like, "Oh, I'm sorry for keeping you, Ivar, but you're cute." Looks like Eric goes, "You? Not so much." And I'm just like, stop. I thought we were done with that after the stupid segments with him in a Street Profits, but nope. I'm pretty sure Vince just finds that so entertaining. I find it stupid. "Oh, you're cute. You're not so much." I'm just like, shut up. Anyways, we have a match. It's Cedric Alexander, Ricochet, and the Viking Raiders taking on Akira Tozawa and his ninjas. Why in God's name are these ninjas still a thing? Seriously, they are nothing. Stop it with the ninjas. And then the actual legitimate wrestlers win the match. And then afterwards, one of the ninjas was revealed to be R-Truth, who sneaks up and wins the 24/7 championship for the 39th time. Whatever. But then we have an interview with Drew McIntyre, who says that the reason Orton hasn't been helping the younger talent is simple: self-preservation. He wants to make sure he's on top of WWE for as long as possible. And when he ripped the torch from Mick Foley's hands a few years ago, he realized that if he ever let go of it, he'd be a thing in the past. So he's going to rip that torch out of Orton's hands and make him realize that Evolution has passed him by. He goes to leave, but then he's then asked by the interviewer, well, what happens if Kevin Owens takes that torch tonight? And Drew says, then they'll have a long talk about the future of Monday Night Raw, even though you knew that Owens was not winning that main event match, which gets to that in a little bit. Let's check the live chat here. Let me see here. Bray was never going to beat Goldberg, even though I thought at first he was. That was ridiculous for him to lose to Goldberg, and it happened. He wishes it was Joe and Rollins at SummerSlam. Could be a good match. Ray's going to get involved with Seth and his son at SummerSlam. Most likely. Goldberg being a bigger draw than Lesnar. I kind of agree. Definitely. It's just that, again, they basically try to use Goldberg to get heat on Roman Reigns, which I thought, again, was just a dumb idea. Especially just knowing, Goldberg's story of trying to, basically, make things better with that last run. So you're going to do the same crap to him, have a match he would have gotten booed out of the building for, just like he did at WrestleMania 20. Not good. R-Truth is the greatest 24/7 champion ever, I guess, even though it's not saying much to me. Question: what if Brock lost the main event of WrestleMania 34 against Roman Reigns? It will backfire like the Nexus 10 years ago. Well, yeah, Retribution is gonna. I'm not having high hopes for Retribution, especially after that lame Cinderblock segment. Again, Roman just should have beaten Brock and gotten over at WrestleMania 34. I don't get why he just didn't pull the trigger. He wasn't gonna get a reaction at SummerSlam, but of course they brought out Braun Strowman just to keep the crowd watching. Which, once again, Braun Strowman's only there when WWE needs him. And then, why is Lana still here? I don't know. And also, let's put it this way. Rusev just wanted sex, right? Then why is Lana posting photos of her and now Miro and saying that they did it in the Black Lake? So, your characters didn't have a very sensible reason as to why you divorced Rusev, but then, yeah, it just, again, let's not talk about and go back there. I'm just glad that whole thing with Lana and Lashley's done, but again, I'm not a fan of this thing of Lana and Natty. Stupid. Anyways, moving on. Peyton Royce defeated Liv Morgan. Ruby then checks on Liv, who is distrustful of her thanks to the malfunction at the junction, basically, as there was a distraction, whatnot. So obviously the Iconics still trying to test the friendship of Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott. We then have Raw Underground. We have Cal Bloom fighting some dude whose name is unknown, and Shane says it's okay, there's no rules. And then apparently the guy that Cal Bloom was fighting was Riddick Moss, who beats Cal with a forearm. And okay, this segment I didn't care for because I don't care for Riddick Moss. All of a sudden, why the heck are they giving Riddick Moss such a big push? He didn't do that great in NXT. I'm sorry, he really didn't. And yet he buried Ricochet. And now I'm hearing rumors that apparently this past week on Main Event, he squashed Mustafa Ali. He squashed Mustafa Ali. So Vince has already given up on Mustafa Ali as well. The one he brought over from 205 Live to SmackDown because he wanted him to win at WrestleMania 35. I didn't mean completely give up on him. He could have had a run with, again, if Apollo Crews turns heel, which I'm still hoping, you could have had Mustafa Ali feud with Apollo Crews for the U.S. title on Raw. Would have been excellent. But no, Rick Moss again. What's so special about Rick Moss? He didn't appeal anybody in NXT, so he brought him to the main roster just to be Mojo's sidekick for 2 weeks whenever he was 24/7 champion. And then, maybe the whole Rob Gronkowski blow up just ruined it all. Who the heck knows? So, yeah, Rick Moss was in Raw Underground. But I liked what we got later from Raw Underground. But first, Before that, we had Asuka and Bayley, and if Asuka wins, she got her match against Sasha Banks at SummerSlam. It's a solid match, but I just knew off the get-go that Bayley was gonna lose. I wish, though, they would have teased some other type of tension with Sasha and Bayley, but Asuka just won clean. She got Bayley to tap out, which kind of didn't like that. I didn't like how they had Bayley tap out. I would have rather had her just, win some other way, but getting Bayley to tap out, I wasn't a fan of that. I still remember when they had Bayley pass out when Asuka beat her for the NXT Women's Championship back in 2016 at TakeOver Dallas. Excellent show, of course, I always put over. But Asuka wins to be expected, and the match is official for SummerSlam. And I'd still say get ready for Sasha Banks' curse, as, not being able to retain a singles title will continue, and I think Asuka's going to win that belt back. So we have that. Also, I thought this week, Raw was supposed to be, a triple brand battle royale to determine who's going to face Bayley at SummerSlam. Guess it's happening on SmackDown now. It will make sense since it's for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Even though, once again, it's stupid because, basically anyone signed to Raw, SmackDown, or NXT is going to get a chance to fight for the women's title. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense now, doesn't it? So we have that. Back to Raw Underground. Arturo Ruas came out, and he had his moment, which, of course, I was like, fine. And then we have Dabba-Kato, whatever his name is, which I definitely find him interesting. He then came out there and destroyed a few people, which I thought was nice. Again, he's definitely someone I think is really standing out to me so far from Raw Underground. And then Shayna Baszler showed up, and she basically wrecked shop with a 1-on-2 or 1-on-3, fight and whatnot, and she looked good. So the first one with Riddick Moss, again, I thought was stupid. But then, other stuff with Arturo Ruas, whatever that guy's name was again, Dabba-Kato, whatever his name is, I like that. And I like stuff with Shayna Baszler. So, I do think Raw Underground will have its benefits from having, people with, that, cage fighter style or, MMA style gimmicks and whatnot. I think, that'll help benefit those people. I don't know if in the long run if it would continue to work, because I don't think everybody is going to be is meant to pull off that MMA cage fighting gimmick they're obviously having with Arturo Ruas, Dabba-Kato, basically avocado instead Dabba-Kato, basically whatever. Dabba-Kato, I think would benefit from having that gimmick, and of course Shayna Baszler we all know for sure. So I like those parts, but again, the stuff with Rick Moss, no, get that off. So that was good. That was good. Then, of course, we see how Retribution turned upside down a car, and then, yeah, that's that. And then we have our main event match. Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Solid match. It was better than I thought. I thought Owens looked good in the match. Orton, of course, looked great. Did they really hit it on the best notes as far as chemistry goes? I'd say not, but it was a solid match. And I thought Owens came out looking good. I think he definitely pushed Orton to the limit at times, but this wasn't something I want to see on pay-per-view or main eventing Raw. That's probably would benefit from being just a middle match or something like that. So Orton wins with the RKO. Afterwards, though, we get this segment. So after the match, he's like, I need a favor. Stay put, because we need to talk. And we have to celebrate. Orton says he has every right to be upset with Rick, but he just can't be angry at the Nature Boy. He can't find it in his heart. But he's got every right to be pissed, because he should have never gotten him this match with Kevin Owens. He only got into it because of Rick's ego. He puts over Rick, saying he's learned so much from him in the past 20 years. He's had his back and taught him everything he knows. He's one of the reasons he's still here after 20 years. You can't be mad at him. But he remembers back in 2002 or 2003, Peoria, Illinois. He got in a little trouble. Nobody came to help him except for Rick. Flair then bailed out his dumb 22-year-old punk-ass predicament, and he respected him and loved him after all that. But he doesn't know love or respect him anymore because he's a liability to him in his career and everything that he's trying to get done right now. He looked back at all those years, and he knows that Rick was thinking he could be the son he wished he could have, which of course is bold knowing the fact that, Flair's son is legitimately dead. So Flair gets emotional, and Randy says, crying is all you're good for. Telling him to sob like a baby. He's not the Ric Flair everybody looks up to. He's the Ric Flair he looked up to. That Ric Flair wouldn't need a pacemaker in his chest. He wouldn't have slipped to a coma 2 summers ago. And he wasn't a whore for the spotlight like he is. Calls him a junkie, washed up and capable. And at SummerSlam, he's got the opportunity to take back the WWE Championship for the 14th time. And that's all he should be concerned with. But instead, he was worried about himself. Then Flair begins to talk. Again, Orton's already fired some truth in there, but definitely some disturbing things that tie in well because it's true. And it makes you think. Rick says he's been taking this very personal. Yeah, he hears him, but he wants to tell him a couple things. First off, he's not that Ric Flair anymore he's talking about. He likes the spotlight. He wants to be part of this. He's 71 years old and he's on Raw, and that means he's got guys like Hogan calling him asking, what's it like? It's the best feeling in the world. And he wants Randy's approval because he wants to be there for the 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th title reign that he wins. Not John Cena. He wants Orton to beat his record, not John Cena's. He was home when his dad was on the road. No cell phones. He knows what he went through, and that's why he wants Randy and why he thinks he's the greatest performer in the business today. But you want to know why he can't get mad? Because after 31 days in ICU, 12 of them in a coma, he woke up and all he wanted to do was tell the people he hadn't told that he loved them. And to make sure everyone knows how he felt. Especially ones he loves. He called around everyone he loves, and he's not trying to take anything from Randy. All he is now is Charlotte's dad. He's part of Randy's life. He can't be Ric Flair anymore, and that's all he wants is to see Randy break his record. Which then leads to Orton giving him a hug. They exchange some whispers, but I'm like, nah, he's going to do it, is he? Well, I was expecting an RKO out of nowhere. But instead, Orton went for the low blow right where the sun does not shine. But of course, as that happens, the light starts to flicker. Orton gently lays down the Nature Boy to the mat, says a few things, and then the lights continue to blink. Orton starts then, going to that place. He gets into a corner, and they start hyping it up. And then he goes for it. He basically punts Ric Flair when the lights went out. So is Ric Flair all of a sudden incapable of, taking a bump with Randy? Obviously not legitimately kicking his head off, but obviously making it look like it did, having the lights go out as Orton punts Ric Flair. And then Drew McIntyre runs out to check on Flair while he starts yelling at Randy, calling him the most evil SOB. And everybody's coming out to give medical attention, and Orton and Drew just stare down. And the crowd is just chanting, shame, shame, shame. Like, what the... Screw these micromanaged crowds. This is a segment that the segment where Orton took out Edge the night after Royal Rumble this year had much more nuclear heat reaction than this crowd. If this was in front of an actual crowd, the boos would have been even better, stronger, and like much more like, we want to cause a riot because you literally just punted a man who literally just poured his heart out, told the truth. Again, this was Ric Flair, for crying out loud, 2 summers ago, on his deathbed, in a coma, knew there was a chance he may not come back. Orton just used that to get him more nuclear heat and whatnot, and it's worked. And then you have the crowd just going, shame, shame. It's like, this, people should be just like, how could you, Randy? Screw you! Like, getting the nuclear heat that an excellent heel like Randy Orton is supposed to get. So definitely an emotional segment with a lot of truth that I'm pretty sure people who've been fans longer of wrestling than me and have been able to, feel the we were supposed to feel and just appreciate those moments that Ric Flair did years ago. I'm pretty sure the emotions got to them. But if I gotta be honest about one thing, again, this was an excellent segment. This leads me to ask, though, what was the point of bringing back Ric Flair? What was the point of him being in Randy Orton's corner for like a couple weeks? It kind of made me feel like, okay, this was an excellent way to give Orton more nuclear heat, even though the crowd didn't react to it. But I'm still in the problem connecting the dots as to how they got there. Even though Orton's just sadistic himself the way it is. But, yeah, so it's still worth getting nuclear heat, but again, the crowd doesn't react to it. And I still think it's setting up excellent for Orton and McIntyre. And quite frankly, I don't want to see McIntyre drop the belt. Even though when he does, I hope it just sets up for something bigger for him and something great for him to have happen to him in front of a crowd. Well, the Royal Rumble did, but him winning that title sure as hell should have been great. I'm starting to believe Orton may win the championship at SummerSlam. I'm really starting to think that. But yeah, so other than nitpicks of the lights flickering, which I thought again was like, why they had to protect Ric Flair from taking a punt? He's taken so many other bumps before, and again, just the fact that I was still kind of wondering what was the point of bringing Ric Flair back in the first place. Still an excellent segment and a good way to close out this week's edition of Raw. So before I go off the air, let's check the live chats. It's 7:30 and AEW comes on about a half an hour. What if Bryan never turned heel 2 years ago? If Bryan never turned heel, I still think the best storyline he could have done is to somehow continue. The feud with him and Miz should have resulted in the Miz becoming world champion and Bryan getting his full revenge on him at WrestleMania. That's why I still say should happen. That is the way a returning hero like Bryan should have won the championship. Again, what they did with him as a heel, I think worked. But I think it took away from the Miz getting like the big moment that he should have had. Again, just my opinion. Owens needs a heel turn, his face turn, run to the ground. They've been so back and forth with it, but I still even feel him as a heel, he kind of ran his miles. Who in the blue held that jobber? I don't know. But that was NXT. This is the main roster. What if AJ never went to Raw last year? Instead, it should have been Orton. I agree, because I still felt the storyline they had with Orton and Styles was basically who really runs the house that AJ Styles built. And the loser of the match should have left Raw. And Styles won, so why? Yeah, I do agree with that. I don't think Styles should have ever went over to Raw. This is the second time Orton punched Rick in the head. The first time was 2009. It was 3 years ago for Rick. 3 years ago, yeah. But, But yeah, guys, thank you for joining me live. That's going to do it. Again, I will be up here later on tonight for my Dynamite review. Again, thank you for being patient with me. Again, it's been a rough week. It happens. I'm going to give this Raw a B-. A B-. A good opening and closing segment. I like the stuff with Bianca and Zelina. The match, of course, that is. Some stuff with Raw Underground interested me. Some didn't. The match with Asuka and Bayley was solid. A few things I didn't like about this show, but I'll give it a B-. B- for Raw this week. Stay tuned also. I'll do a turn alert for Mickie James. And that's all she wrote. So that, and then of course my Dynamite review, and then maybe another Harry Potter portion of my Let's Play tonight as well. So guys, what are your thoughts on Raw for this week? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Be sure as always to slap a like on the video, subscribe more content to my channel, and you may follow me on Twitter at DemandAirBoy93. And until then, guys, I'm checking out. Have a good night. I'll hopefully see you all later for my Dynamite review. Peace out, everybody.
There's no escape.